Hello, and welcome to my intermediate video milestone 2 for Foundations of Educational Technology. I am on the development track for this course. My name is Darian Bailey, and for your consideration, I've built a tool called the Rubber Goose Debugger. Thanks very much for watching this video. This video will have 4 parts. First, we'll go over the introduction, and second, I'm going to go through how I started development of the tool. And third, we'll go over the current product, and fourth, I'll go over my next steps and ask for feedback. So first of all, the issue that really spurred on this tool is that debugging is a real problem that currently does not have a solution in our society. 50% of all development time, this is all programmers spending time making applications. It's 50% of that time is spent debugging. So that equals hundreds of billions of dollars in wages each year is spent paying programs to debug. Despite that, we have both poor education in debugging. There's very few classes that are debugging centric in traditional education, and even in camps there isn't. Even in the new boot camps, there isn't a real focus on debugging. And there's also a bad adoption of tools. There are plenty of debugging tools and IDEs, but people don't tend to use them very often. To solve this issue, I decided to build a conversational agent that teaches novice programmers how to debug while helping them debug problems they encounter. So here we can see how I started to develop the tool. First of all, I had 2 starting materials. My plan for the architecture of the tool, where I would have a JavaScript and HTML front end that would communicate through Ajax with a Flask server. And then on the right here, we have the flowchart that I started to build off of. This is a very simplified flowchart to what the tool actually ended up becoming, but it kind of gives you an idea of the jumping off point. This is what the tool looked like in my first intermediate video milestone. It was a chatbot that ran in the terminal. It was frustrating to interact with for a variety of reasons. Mostly that it doesn't always understand what you're saying, as you can see in the middle here. And it's kind of a boring interface, and it takes a while to type out things, and it has a lot of dead ends. Luckily, I have made some progress since then, so we can kind of see where I've ended up. So here we have the new product. See this cute little goose introduces themselves and lists the 7 steps to debug a problem, and then you have your replies down here. You can click any of them to get help with any issue. I've seen users who have used it in the past mainly click on the inability to reproduce the issue, in which the debugger will respond after going back to the Python backend, and I'll give a hint. Sometimes the hint will help, and let's say that it does. Then it will go back to the center and allow you to ask another question. You can feel free to go to this website, rubbergoosedebugger.com, try it out for yourself. I encourage it, and please let me know what you think. The other major thing that people have clicked on is being unable to figure out what is causing the problem. And in this case, it recommends hypotheses. And if you're unable to figure out any hypotheses, it'll take you down another conversation. So there are a whole bunch of these. I'm not going to go through all of them now, but I definitely suggest you go ahead and try it out for yourself to give feedback. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am now. In addition to logging responses and seeing how people have done that, I've also conducted a survey that has had 15 responses so far, where I've asked 5 questions. number one, asking people whether or not they'll actually use the tool. Kind of got a 2.9 out of 5. Um, and I think that that's actually inflated to how many people are actually using it. So overall, not great on that. People tend to think that it's easy to use and it has a good UX, but it's geared too towards beginning programmers. The answers are too vague, open, not targeted, and it seems that most conversations end with asking you to ask a human. Then I asked whether they would recommend the Rubber Goose debugger to other more junior programmers, because the survey was, of course, with people in this program who tend to be much more experienced programmers. This was much better, almost a 4 out of 5 in terms of agreeableness. People seem to think it's a good for people who hadn't debugged it before. The general feedback on the tool is that it looks good, is user-friendly. There were some typos when I first had the survey. I've since fixed those, and it needs more options. So in terms of next steps, taking that into consideration, number one, I'm going to add more options to each path that don't route to humans, trying to avoid the routing to humans. Then I'm going to make it more open, actually give the users ability to type, and then SP, which stands for specificity, which means improving the chatbot engine and site using suggestions and data. So I'm actually going to see what kind of people are typing in and actually improving those specific paths. So yeah, do my improvement plans make sense, and what would you add if so? Or not, if not. Anyway, thanks so much for listening to my video, and just a few credits. Suggest slides go for the slides. Icons by Flat Icon, especially the Goose, and yeah, free pick and stories. Thanks so much, and have a great week.